Good evening. It is 6 o'clock and I call this regularly scheduled Dunwoody City Council meeting to order unless there's an objection. Seeing none. Councilman Price, can you lead us in the invocation and the pledge?
If you're able, please rise. At this meeting, help us to make decisions which keep us faithful to our mission and reflect our values. Give us strength to hold to our purpose, wisdom to guide us, and a keen perception to lead us. And above all, keep us charitable as we deliberate. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Are we ready to present our new friend? Do you need a minute? Okay, great.
Alrighty, everyone. Hi there. My name is Jess. I'm here with Lifeline Animal Project. We're here with my friends Marcy and Blanche and our furry friend Kane. All right, let me get my notes up here. My husband is a police officer here. We used to live here. We did just recently move out of Dunwoody, but love the city. I'm distracted by his cute costume. I'm so sorry. He's so cute. So like I said, this is my friend Kane. Kane is an absolute sweetheart. He's one of Blanche's favorite dogs. He is estimated to be between 3 and 4 years old. He is 51 pounds. He's heartworm negative. He's not been neutered yet, but that's just because of the sheer amount of dogs that we have. So that will obviously happen. He did come in with another dog and has done okay in play group. He doesn't really like the big groups as much, but he is dog friendly. And he's just an absolute ham. I mean, he's ridiculous. When I left the shelter to come here, we were 24 dogs over our maximum humane capacity goal. Our sister shelter in Fulton County is a little worse off this week. They are 100 dogs over their maximum humane capacity goal. Numbers over the summer are always really difficult. As a reminder, our humane capacity here in DeKalb County is 475 dogs. So we have about 500 in the shelter right now. And we have to get that number as low as possible on Tuesdays specifically. So if anyone is interested in even short-term fostering, you can keep a dog for 2 nights as a fun little sleepover. And it helps us get our numbers down, helps get cute pictures of our dogs, and helps us potentially not have a space euthanasia list. Last week, we did have a space euthanasia list of 35 dogs, and we got all of them out, which was awesome. So we have been saving them every week, but the numbers just keep coming in. At the end of this month, we will be having an event called Meant to Meet, which is essentially the idea of allowing the dog to choose you. So participants in the event will be in a large open room. We'll bring the dogs in and the dog gets to pick who it goes home with. So you can do dog for the day, you can do weekend warrior, long-term foster, you can fully adopt the dog, you just whatever you're interested in. But that'll be a really fun event at our Lifeline Community Animal Center, which is about 10 minutes from the DeKalb location. I think it should be about 15 minutes from here. So that'll be really fun. You do have to sign up in advance. So is he splooting? Oh my goodness. So again, this is our friend Kane. He is adoptable through DeKalb County Animal Services. All month this month is Clear the Shelter. So adoptions are $25 as we try to get our capacity as low as possible. Tuesdays adoptions are free. And then the last weekend in August, adoptions are also free as well. So we would love to see you guys.
So Jessica, what kind of family is Kane looking for, do you think?
One with a couch. He would love Perfect.
Right.
Kids and a couch. Kids and a couch.
Kids in a couch.
Yeah, he's very people oriented. So
Mhm.
I mean, he's again just a total ham. Um, and this is pretty much everything that he needs, just some air conditioning, a comfy couch, maybe some Netflix, and kids to hang out with. He's a very sweet, affectionate dog. He got a bath earlier today, which he did really wonderful for. He kind of enjoyed it, is what it sounded like.
Mhm.
So he would be a really easy dog, and he's a great age too, because we get a lot of people who get puppies and then don't realize how difficult puppies are.
Mhm.
So with him being a little bit older, he's still a lot of fun, but not puppy level crazy.
Puppy level
Um,
crazy. He looks, I mean, look at him. He's just chilling at a council meeting.
yeah,
Doesn't happen that often. That people
wearing
chill at
a
my, he's
hat,
wearing a
mind
hat
you.
and something on his back, a cowboy.
Yeah.
So awesome, Jessica. Thank you. How are we doing with the dogs we've had visit with us?
All of them have been adopted. Well, one went to rescue.
Right.
He's since been adopted, but
Good.
every single one has been adopted, which is
That's
awesome.
awesome.
So we're hoping the
Yes.
same fate
Oh,
for
Kane
Kane in the
should
next
be
month.
somebody. I think my husband already texted me no, but because he's at home watching, but
Yeah,
haven't looked, but so cute.
he's very cute. I hope my husband doesn't hear this, but sometimes you can just bring them home
Yeah.
and then
Right.
say, I'm so sorry.
Right. You might have to try that. All right. Thank
Thank you
you,
guys so much for
Jessica.
having us.
So appreciate it. Thank you. First dog wearing a costume. Okay, thank you all for joining in as we try to help our DeKalb, will help the animals at Lifeline, which is the provider of such services for DeKalb County, which as taxpayers we fund. So thank you, Jessica. Thank you, all the volunteers. And thank you mostly Kane for being so adorable. Make sure somebody in Dunwoody grabs you. All right, public comments. I have two cards and I'll call you out. You'll have 3 minutes when you approach the microphone. And Linda Renegar, I think, and you can correct me if I said that wrong. Approach the microphone. Please introduce yourself for the record and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Linda Reniger. I live at 2057 Mount Vernon Road here in Dunwoody, and I'm here tonight to discuss the Mount Vernon Phase 2 sidewalk project. We met with Laura Meyer on Tuesday, August 11th, to discuss what this project would encompass. I, as well as my neighbors, originally thought we were putting in a regular 3-foot wide sidewalk, just like in the rest of Dunwoody, so I didn't think too much of it. You would come in, dig up a little of the yard, put in the sidewalk, and that would be it. You can't begin to imagine my surprise when I heard the extent of your plans. I won't go into the details right now, but as they are unacceptable. There has to be room for compromise here. Your current plan takes 40 feet out of my yard and moves the actual flow of traffic on Mount Vernon Road into my yard by 8 feet. This destroys half of my front yard between right-of-way easements and temporary easements. The cost to me personally is $4,000 to $5,000, in addition to loss of value in the price of my home and total loss of any kind of curb appeal. After talking with Ms. Meyer, I called your offices on August the 13th, spoke with Shayla Alexis, and requested a meeting with the mayor, Mr. Price, Mr. Seconder, and Mr. Hennigan. I'm still waiting for your reply. One last thing. All of you were active in the Dunwoody City government as city council members or serving in some other capacity since 2020 when this plan was first approved. This project affects 10 homes, only 10 homes, and not once in the last 6 years did you think it was necessary to come to our homes to discuss this project and get our opinion. The outcome would have been very different. I ask now that you reconsider this project, make changes as suggested by us to Ms. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, Jay, if you could get contact information, just in case. Is Jay in here? I can't see. All right, thank you. If Ms. Renniger, if you'll give our assistant city manager, just in case the contact information didn't get to me. Carson Golden, approach the microphone, sir, and you'll have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself for the record.
How you doing? Carson Golden. Um,
And speak into the microphone too, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so I've lived at Mount Vernon Plantation for about 5 years. I'm here to raise concerns about these systems that are taking our data, and obviously I'm talking about Flock. It's been all over the news. Many different places, officers have abused uh, this data collection system. Over 40 cities have canceled their contracts. And I am speaking about item 8 here. Before we vote on that policy, I'd like to ask if it covers Flock. Um, so Flock is an AI system that's the product. Their algorithm reads everything, passing vehicles, catalogs that make the make, model, color, plate number, bumper stickers. Um, Dunwoody has about 80 of these. If the council adopts an artificial intelligence policy tonight that does not govern the largest artificial intelligence deployment in the city operates, then the policy has a hole in the program. I'd ask the same of item 9. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. First time speaking here. I'm not the only one who's this passionate about this stuff. Um, you know, this surveillance system has so much potential for abuse. It's already been used to stalk ex-girlfriends, ex-wives, and that's really concerning to me. And also, I'm concerned about this drone program, $200,000. The PCID fund, there seems to be a gap there. So I'd like to hear some clarification on who's actually paying for this. And on top of that, PCID being basically landlords who are not publicly elected are deciding to what to do with our daily habits and how we, you know, interact with a private company and give trust to a private company that can basically sell our data to the highest bidder of our habits of where we go, what we do, places that we frequent. Um, so in April, the summary on item 7, the mid-year budget amendment, in April, the summary memo stated that there was no fiscal impact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
clarify what you're doing about selling our data to a private company
Thank you.
going to
Thank you.
use this.
Thank you.
I don't support it.
Thank you. So that's all the cards I have. There'll be another public comment session at the end of the meeting. And Michelle, Marissa,
Madam Mayor, are
yes.
we potentially reorganizing a couple items on the agenda?
Yeah, but we can do that when we
Okay,
get to the,
right.
go ahead, Michelle.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this is the annual update for the Safe Streets program for 2026. So just a recap of the program goals, the Safe Street programs began as part of the Safety Action Plan when it was created in 2023, with emphasis on reducing collisions with vulnerable users and left angle crashes, and speeding along all local roadways. So, as part of the Safety Action Plan, a road safety committee was created between Public Works, Community Development, and police staff to review the serious injury crashes and assess and audit the accident area and determine if any road safety measures could be applied to help mitigate the issue. In 2024, the city had 6 serious injuries on local roadways. And in 2025, we had 7 serious injuries. So far this year, we have had none. And this is through June of this year. So looking at improvements for the vulnerable user, LPIs, which are leading pedestrian intervals, have been implemented on 30 traffic signals on our high injury networks. So an LPI is a traffic signal timing feature that gives a pedestrian a 3 to 7 minute second head start to go across the crosswalk before the vehicle will get a green light. And so this is really like reducing conflict and providing improving visibility at the intersection. Additionally, we implemented 5 RRFBs at various locations within the city. Roberts at Wildcat, Mount Vernon at North Peachtree, Womack at Lakewood Court, Peeler at Sharing Lane, and Chamblee Dunwoody Road at Kingsdown Road. And so the RFBs really were to provide pedestrian safe crossings and bring awareness at those crosswalks. Another project that we just completed was installing a mid-block crosswalk at Jet Ferry with a bicycle climbing lane. All of this was done through signage and paint. So as part of our capital program, the Cherry Hill and Eidson Path was completed to provide connectivity and increase walking and biking opportunities in the community. So as part of all of our capital projects, we are always looking for opportunities to address bike and pedestrian safety through shortening crossing exposures, RRFBs, mid-block crosswalks, medians, and improving crosswalk visibility through lighting. Another project we have and another opportunity is the North Peachtree Sidewalk. So this project, which is currently in design to address walking safety along the corridor. But we've also added sidewalk along the south side of Kings Point Drive. So this is going to be incorporated into the project to help support safe walking routes to and from the school. Kings Point is used as a drop-off pickup location with many children navigating from the school across the intersection. So as you can see from the picture, the existing sidewalk is on the south side on the school property. And then we have sidewalk on the north side of Kings Point, which end up essentially people will cross the road and then they end up walking in the road. So then we're adding sidewalk up to the Ellsbury driveway. We've also made a lot of improvements and progress with our ADA this year. We have reconstructed 93 existing ramps. You can see the locations on the map. And we are constructing 28 new ramps, and we have removed 305 sidewalk trip hazards this year. We are also making a lot of bike marking improvements. So one is at the intersection of Mount Vernon and Chamblee Dunwoody. So we will be restriping the bike lanes with markings and green paint to bring awareness to the intersection. So this is scheduled to be completed this Friday. Another improvement, and this is one that you've seen at a previous meeting, is at the Vermac and Womack intersection. We're going to shorten the pedestrian crossing. We're going to reduce speeds by constructing a bulb out on the northeast corner. Additionally, we will be doing pedestrian improvements at Parliament and at Old Village Run. And so all of these features will get incorporated into the Womack sidewalk project. So this improvement was actually one that came out of the safety committee recommendation. So this is to reduce speeds at Meadow Lane and Perimeter Center Place. It's reduced speeds for the right turn lane, and it's also going to shorten the pedestrian crossing. So this has been requested as part of the GDOT off-system safety grant, and it will be implemented as part of that grant in 2027. This is another improvement that will be implemented as part of the GDOT off-system safety grant. It is at Vanderlyn and Hensley intersection. And so this is really looking at supporting safe routes to school. The project will look at reducing the crosswalk length and improve visibility at the three-way stop by constructing a bulb out. So now we are moving on to angle crashes. And based on a history of crashes, we installed in R-Cut over off of Hammond Drive. And this was using GDOT funding also through an SAP grant. It's been very successful thus far. Another project that we also completed is a Do Not Block the Box at the high school. Oops. At the high school. This was to improve visibility and reduce the potential for ankle crashes out of the high school driveway. Oh, wrong one. There you go. So this is an improvement at Womack and Leeds in Vernon Oaks. This intersection has poor sight distance from the side roads, and it results in like very limited visibility. It is really mainly due to the roadway geometry. So we've applied for this GDOT safety equipment program to acquire 2 solar panel signs, and you can see them here. They will flash. They detect when a vehicle is approaching, and they will flash to signal the driver before they turn onto Womack. So this project you're all very familiar with. This is we've just completed phase 2, which was really implementing the delineators and a lot of the markings. And it has, I think this has been a very positive, successful project. The intersection is functioning very well. But the last and final phase of the project will be to add curb and gutter and sidewalk, and that will be included as part of the Village Crossing project. So we did want to share some positive impacts from all of our safety projects, and really from the angle crashes specifically. So in the past, we completed the project at Mount Vernon at Vermac. And we added left turn lanes on all the legs. And so before the project averaged about 2.5 accidents a year. After the project was constructed, we were averaging half an accident a year. So that's like 79% reduction in angle crashes. At Spalding at Dunwoody, very similar numbers. We had 19 crashes per million miles traveled before construction, and now we're down to 8 crashes per million miles. So that's a 58% in overall crash reduction. And lastly, Chamblee Dunwoody at Womack, we added left turn lanes and we reduced crashes by 70, angled crashes by 78%, and then overall crashes by 38%. So all very positive, good results. So one thing that we are really focused on is lowering speeds in the city. We are submitting for the speed reduction. And you can see the listed corridors, and we are updating the school zone boundaries also. So this is probably a newer project for you guys. So along with adjusting speeds, we really wanted to look at some traffic calming opportunities, Dunwoody Village Parkway being one of them. So we looked at the whole corridor and really saw that the intersection at Dunwoody Plaza Driveway and the Dunwoody Village Driveway, that's right there next to the Fidelity Bank and the Jiffy Lube, that was probably our ideal location for installing some type of mitigation at that intersection. So we still are in the concept phase and we're assessing improvements that would be the most effective at addressing speeding and providing safe pedestrian crossings. Another speed reduction project is the Dunwoody Knoll project. This is a project that is looking at constructing a mini roundabout and other traffic calming features such as narrowing lanes and putting in splitter islands. Just as we address vulnerable users in all of our capital projects, we're really trying to incorporate speed lowering techniques such as narrowing lanes and medians and pedestrian refuge islands on all of our capital projects also. So other things that I do want to highlight is some other initiatives. On North Peachtree at Cotillion, we completed a lane reconfiguration back in 2025. So this was really to help align the intersection at Cotillion and North Peachtree and just to really reduce that driver confusion. And so the striping looks great. I think it really does help the intersection function at a better level. Additionally, we are in the progress of updating the Dunwoody Safety Crash Dashboard. The data has been verified and it is in progress of getting updated onto our city dashboard. And then lastly, the backplate project. So this is something where we're replacing all the backplates on our at the signals at our high injury networks. So this was a request as part of the off-system safety grant through GDOT. And so there's probably a couple of dozen intersections on those high injury networks that we will be looking at. So we've actually had a very busy and very successful year. We've had several federal awards, one being the SS4A grant that we received earlier this year. And so this will look at ways to reduce crash severity on our high injury networks in the city. This will be done through safety audits and they will be recommending low cost, high impact countermeasures. We are still in the administrative paperwork phase, but we were hoping to get this project kicked off shortly. And I don't know why this thing keeps coming up, but there we go. I did want to update you on the financials for the ARPA money, the ARPA funds. Originally, we started out with $750,000 in ARPA funding. You can see all of the projects that have been completed using these funds. We do still have 3 outstanding projects left. One being the bike lanes at Mount Vernon, which will be completed this week. We have the match for the SS4A grant, and then the design fee for the North Peachtree sidewalk. But once those projects are completed, we will have used all of the ARPA funding, the completed budget. So our next steps are we will continue advancing and implementing projects, looking and reviewing serious injury crashes. We will continue to respond to safety improvements and implementing recommendations of the Road Safety Action Plan. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Catherine?
Thanks, Michelle. It's a lot of good news there.
Yes.
There are 714 sidewalk ramps identified, as in ramps that need to go in. Is that correct?
Oh, are you talking about the item that's on
Sidewalk.
the agenda later on today? Is that the 714? I'm sorry.
That was part of this presentation. Oh, yeah, okay. Yes. Yes, so I want to know, does the 714 number, does that take out the 100 plus that you're doing this year?
I know that the 28, that's the ramps, that is included in the item that it will be discussed later on today. The other pieces of the 93 existing ramps and the 305, those have already been done. So I'm not sure about the numbers that are in the packet,
Okay.
but I'm sure that could be answered later on.
Well, let's just say that there are a lot remaining.
Yes.
Yes. So how are you gonna plan for those? Are you starting on the high injury networks first?
I would need to look into that and see what the plan is. Every year we have a certain allotment of money to address ADA ramp upgrades. And so I'm not sure where we are and how that money gets implemented on, if we're completed the high engineering networks and then we can go to others, or what that status is, but I can look into that and get that information back to you.
Yeah, I would like to know, possible. State approval for the slowing of the speeds.
Mhm.
When is that expected?
There was an issue with the application, the format. We were told that the format of the application it got updated, this year. And so they had to be redone and then, it will be resubmitted.
For how long will that take?
Hoping to hear by the end of the year.
Okay.
Hoping to hear or to resubmit by the end of the year?
No, to hear something by the end of the year.
All right. And Dunwoody Knoll, the little mini roundabout,
Yes.
what is the timeline for that?
So I just received the progress layout, and I am confirming one drainage item, and then I was going to set up a meeting with Dunwoody Knoll to review that and invite you and Stacy at the same time, and then review that with the community.
So is the water work done by the county on that road now?
I believe so, yes.
And about how long, once you say go, how long would this project take to complete?
That is, I mean, we would hope to get quotes by the end of the year, and depending on funding, really, depending on what the quote amount is, and then if we can identify funding.
No timeline then.
Well, we would need a budget in order to finish it, yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Joe?
Hey, thanks, Michelle. I'm really proud of where we are. I step back. Yes, we're not big old Atlanta with a huge bureaucracy and a lot of layers, but I look at our peers and I don't say negative, you're right, but I believe that we are leading the way with the initiative where we used our federal funding early on to get the plan built, to set aside the funds, to have Jonathan DeJoy initially here to set the stage to do that stuff. So I'm really thankful for you and staff and the rest of the council members, et cetera, for supporting this safe effort. And just for the greater public, we're talking about all driver fatalities. When I saw the slide that it didn't have a line bar item, I'm like, wait a minute, something's wrong with that. It was 0, right? So that was
Yes.
like, yeah. But really, we're looking at making the streets safer for all users, for drivers, pedestrians, people on bikes, children, whether you're walking, jogging, with a baby stroller, it's all users, because I really believe that public safety should be the number one job of government, and safe streets is public safety. So that said, I've got a couple of things based on where we were from last year. In last year's update, in 2025, there was some evaluation for some mini flex post and rubber marker evaluation for some bike lanes. Do we know what happened with that, or is that something you're still maybe considering or working on looking at?
Are you referring to using them within the
Yep.
city, or was there a specific area that you were
It
looking
was
at?
it was just a generic in Jonathan's presentation saying analyze, evaluate potential. It just depend on location. I don't know.
So whenever there's an opportunity, we will definitely look at the low cost implementation on, some type of quick build, or if there's something that we want to address quickly. That's kind of a little bit like the Meadow Lane that we're doing in the perimeter center, with the hardening and the right turn. That will not be concrete. That will be, like a,
Rubber,
yeah, some,
whatever's
exactly.
gutter.
Hensley is like that too, Vanderlyn and
Sure.
Hensley. So a lot of these projects are incorporating those features.
Fair enough. And I did appreciate again we were doing like school safety audits,
Mhm.
safety walks with safe routes to schools. We did those. Are we continuing with that? Are we following up with the recommendations on those safety walks with the schools?
As I understand that we don't have any on the list because we have completed the ones that have either been requested or were on the previous list. And I will need to check on the follow-up.
Mhm. Did we, I don't remember because I don't think I saw that presented up to council level of what were there any actions that might have been from, a couple years ago, who knows? Right? I know that I got one email sent to the council that I was copied on from Austin Elementary. And there was a list, and I think Michael replied to some of that. But yeah, I think just as an FYI, if there's other,
Yes,
just to keep us abreast of what
sure. I
the
will
schools
look.
are asking for. Okay. Great. And then the Vermac and the Parliament Drive, Old Village Run. Okay. And I get it. We have to do due diligence. We've got to follow methodology. We have to follow process, et cetera. But we did have a fatality there a few years ago. And I know that we are having another project coming forward on that same footprint, but that would include some kind of treatment at that intersection. In last year's update, before we talked about, last year's update didn't have, we're going to do, we're going to build out and construct and do these things for the sidewalk and up to that intersection, which is programmed out now. And we did the concept on that, right?
On
So,
Womack.
yeah, so last year I thought we were going to do some kind of a quick build or do something in there from I don't know what, I don't know the what,
Mhm.
but it was just, or the how, but it was like we're I thought we were also looking at entertaining some short-term quick build or some type of treatment
Mhm.
at that in the interim until we build construction other part.
So we were looking at the Vermac Womack intersection to do a quick build at that corner. Um, and just based off of cost alone, it wasn't feasible. Unfortunately, there was just a lot of more moving pieces, just with the path that's there and the parking and all the other. There would have been a lot more reconstruction than was at first anticipated. So that is why that got included. The Old Parliament section, that was one that we were going to, and we did refresh the crosswalk through there. But then that it is part of, it is a larger project also because it's constructing a median. And like,
Okay.
yeah, so that became a larger project and has been absorbed also just for efficiency of funds.
And not part of your presentation, but that project is potentially in the pipeline to be constructed sometime next year? Or was it going to be maybe in 2028? I don't want
I
to,
think
not
end
100%.
of 27 or early 28. I would have to
Okay.
go back and look to verify.
I think we're okay.
think
All right,
that's
folks. And you still have this. So there's an in-house, it's a staff-led road safety committee that you all meet internally on?
Yes, only to review the serious injury crashes.
Okay.
Yes, and since we haven't had any this year, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, great. Just about done. And so do we have any, the last part is I mean, again, this is outstanding. I'm looking at what we're focusing on, what's going to happen, art of the possible. Quick aside, by the way, the Nandina Lane, with the big bollard things, the plastic things. I actually saw a MARTA bus pull out of Nandina and make a right turn on Mount Vernon. Plenty of clearance. Didn't even scratch at all. I've seen scratches on that Pollard, but I'm just saying a bus completely fine making that turning movement. Just as an FYI, I'm not a professional engineer, but yeah. So do we have any kind of proactive community engagement at all as part of the Safe Streets effort? Meaning going out to neighborhoods, schools, talking to road users, just I know you're moving forward on the infrastructure. We've got a good plan. We've got another Safe Streets audit with, higher injury network. We got stuff, but are we doing any other proactive community engagement?
I mean, we do engagement as part of all of our projects, and we talk to the community and then the affected neighborhoods. But as a citywide engagement on a general level, that is not part of what we do on our day-to-day.
Yeah, so like for instance, like safe routes to school, helping advocate, helping educate the reaching out to the elementary schools recurring basis. We're not staffed for that.
There is a request from local schools, and we'll go out and speak with them and meet with them. But not as more of a PR effort.
Great. Well, thank you again. Hats off to what you guys are done, and we're moving forward. Thank you.
John.
Thank you, Michelle, for the presentation. A couple quick little items. If are you able to open the presentation again?
Yes.
Just go back to cotillion 285 just for quick view.
285. I'm trying to remember which one that
It's about,
on was that the North Peachtree?
yeah, North Peachtree.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I should look at the numbers and give it to you.
This way. Yes. This was talking about when we were talking about the lane reconfiguration.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's happening there is
It has
basically
popped
you
up
have
just in case.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's there.
Okay.
There, got it.
Thank
So
you.
you got drivers doing 280, going on 285, coming off 285, speed of coming off 285, speed limit is what, 55, and they're typically doing 80. So they're coming down that ramp at a pretty high rate of speed and either going straight across left or turning right. The paint that we have there at the far right-hand side of North Peachtree Road is what was added.
You're talking the hatched area in
The
front of
hatched area on the
station.
far right.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
Yes.
So that was what was added. There's only one lane now on North Peachtree, and that's
Mm-hmm.
basically, straight through. There's no two lanes. The paint alone is a nice start, but I don't think it's doing its job effectively. In other hatched areas that we have had numerous cars rolling through, we have put let's call them the white turtles,
Mhm.
something like that, to make it inconvenient for those making a right turn at 70 miles an hour coming down that ramp. So I'm not telling you to do it. I want you to engineer and look at it to see if it's appropriate, and see if that makes sense. Because again, the paint is a good start. I'm not sure it's effective all the time during heavy traffic.
We'll take a look at that.
Thank you, much appreciated. Other than that, I was disappointed to hear about the speed detection permit that was 6 months ago. If the state's giving us negative feedback, I think council would be interested in that. And other than that, I am interested also in the crosswalks that Catherine raised. I'm guessing the methodology that y'all are going to give us is heavy use schools, things of that nature. I'm sure we're all interested to seeing that list for the 84 that are coming in front of us. So I'm sure that's coming. It's not part of the conversation tonight, but it's only for discussion. I'm guessing when we vote on it, that map or some forethought of where those improvements will be will come to us. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Rob.
One question, not really tied to your presentation, and I don't think you'll be able to answer it today, but over in the perimeter where the crosswalks have been painted, I would be curious to know what sort of safety improvements we've seen with those. I think it would be worthwhile to look at something like that, especially around the schools. They could even be painted in the school colors, for example. So I would just be curious. I know PCID funded those paint jobs. I know they cost quite a bit more,
Mhm.
but if they show a real benefit to especially pedestrian crossings,
like an added awareness because of
Yeah.
the color.
Because like I think it would be worthwhile to maybe try to find some other spots in the city that might benefit from that. So just something not with this presentation, but another thought for some improvements.
Go ahead.
I just
Okay.
have a real quick one, because it wasn't in the presentation, but I know when we repave like a major street like Tilly Mill, when we did it and we added the lights, like the reflectors,
Oh, the RMP, yeah.
like that's standard now for us, right? Like if we have to stripe the middle of the road, is it stand for us to put those in?
So on major streets, like if a local, like
Well,
a
one that doesn't
neighborhood
mean right,
street,
right.
yeah.
No, but
yes.
like a Tilly Mill, like a Chamblee
Yes,
Dunwoody,
yeah.
all that. So now that is standard because I really did not understand what a difference it makes. So just
the reflection
huge.
off
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Especially at
So I just
night.
like
Mhm.
that hadn't been in there, but that is standard operating procedure. Then we do a major one and we have that center line striping that we have to do. We put those in. Fine, I'm done.
So I have a couple questions, or one is an observation, and it's just an observation, but when I looked in the presentation, sorry, I'm going way back to the beginning where it had the injuries. The scale of I get it, we only had 6 one year and 7 another, and one is too many, but a glance at this makes it feel like that number is going to be a lot bigger. I don't know if some other kind of chart would be more whatever. It just when I looked up, I was like, oh my gosh. And then you see it's only a difference of 1, and B, it's not only, but it's only 7. And which is too many, but this year's 0, so right. And so fingers crossed. And so, right, to be clear, it doesn't include 285, which is very
Yes.
standard. Just so everyone
And not
knows,
cotillion.
it's not international, it's nationally. Interstates are not part of a local government's like data collection because we don't have a way to impact outcomes, nor are state highways, correct?
Yeah, so cotillion is not a part of
Right.
this or any of the ramps.
Right, exactly. So just if people are watching and are going to email us and they know of 3 wrecks on 285, there's nothing we can do.
These are only on local city roads that we have control over.
Right. And then at a conference in the middle of July that I was at, I heard one mayor talk about how they are using temporary speed bumps in neighborhoods that are concerned about speed to try it to see if it works. And I forgot to mention it every time I've seen people at City Hall, but this reminded me that I'd like us to look at temporary trials of things. Because when neighbors talk about speed and we offer them speed bumps, they generally still want us to fix the speeding problem, but they don't want speed bumps. But it's just a way to show how things are effective. And they've had pretty successful adoption of speed bumps after the trial if it proves to be effective. It's Salem, Massachusetts, where the witch trials were, is the city that I heard the mayor speaking about. But I'd like us to look at temporary installations. We've done it before of different things in places where we think a permanent fix is maybe further away, just to see if we can collect data on how it works. And this looks great. So thank you. We've done an awful lot and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Hold on, go back to my agenda. All right, next is the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes, Catherine.
I would like to ensure that Michael Smith knows that we want the sign to say Dunwoody and not perimeter. The presentation was the same as the last meeting, so I want it to be crystal clear.
Yeah, yes, we don't have updated graphics. But we are planning to change that. The designer pointed out, I didn't see it at the time of the presentation, but it had Dunwoody on there, but not as prominent at the top. But we're changing that, and we just don't have updated graphics for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just okay. Anybody else have questions or concerns?
Move to approve.
Moved by Catherine,
Second.
second by Joe. Any further comments or questions? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Madeline. Oh, Sharon has to read it.
This is a second read of an ordinance to amend the City of Dunwoody zoning classification and map of lot parcel number 18 349 01039, lot parcel number 18 349 01038, and lot parcel number 18 350 04002, in consideration of zoning case RZ 26-05 for 1200 Ashwood Parkway, 1240 Ashwood Parkway, and 4754 Ashford Dunwoody Road from OI Office Institution District Zoning Classification to PD Plan Development District.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm following up on the first read from August 10th. Since then, based on the feedback at the council meeting, the applicant has worked with staff to update the site plan, the conditions, and the overall development plan. And so I'll just walk you through those changes, and I will also address some of the questions from the last meeting. So for visual reference, this is the previous site plan, and this is the updated site plan. So not too different. So I've just made some outlines to make it a little bit clearer what the changes were. The applicant has created 4 3-block townhome units, which allows them to make the elevator ready units without having to do the whole ADA compliance. And so they have dedicated 12 units for the elevator ready construction, and I have outlined those in red. And this requirement has also been codified in the conditions of zoning. And because they've been able to sort of shift around these townhomes, they have also made a little bit more clearance space just to provide a little bit more delineation between that future road connection and their stormwater requirements for this project. And so that easement and the stormwater infrastructure will not interfere. And then there were also some clarifications to the conditions and the exhibits, and I just have those listed here. Again, the easement will not interfere with the stormwater facilities. They've also codified their intersection improvements at Ashwood Parkway and Ashford Dunwoody Road. There is a new exhibit included in the package. That's Exhibit E. That's the traffic study that the applicant provided and reviewed with our Public Works Director, Michael Smith. And that shows that intersection realignment and those improvements to the efficiency at that light. And those changes were made in response really to a lot of community comments at the Planning Commission meeting. And so the applicant, in our estimation, has really followed through on their promise to address those. We've also codified the maintenance of the stormwater pond and ensuring that that's going to fall to the applicable either property owners association or the HOA for their townhome development. We're sort of leaving that whole situation up to them, whether it's the POA or the HOA, but it will be privately maintained through some sort of agreement. And then we've also included an enforcement mechanism for the cap on the rental units, essentially requiring that they, as the HOA, keep track of that data, and that if we request it, based on feedback or complaints, that we can get that data from them to ensure that they're complying. And then we've also codified again that requirement for 12 units to be constructed as elevator ready. The overall development plan was also updated. All of those documents that are included in the overall development plan are now all consistent. They're showing the correct streetscape. All of that has been polished up. And we've also polished up some of the language in the overall development plan to clarify different items such as the dark skies compliant lighting, the driveway length, and the bike parking locations. And we also, in that overall development plan, also included, it's a little bit redundant, but just to make sure it's entirely clear, no matter what document you're looking at in the zoning, about the, rental caps and the elevator ready units. Those are also included in the overall development plan. And then I also wanted to address just the PD district. We don't get a ton of rezonings like this, so I wanted to go into a little bit more detail based on questions from the last meeting. This development is particular, not only in the number of units. This is a significantly larger townhome development than we've had in Dunwoody, and it's adding a significant number of owner-occupied options in the perimeter center, which we do really need to have that option there. But it's also adding a new privately maintained but publicly accessible park space. The only other housing development in Dunwoody where we've had that integrated park component is also a PD district. That would be the Dunwoody Green. Thank you. So we do find that this is a novel development with an attractive design, and it does meet the concept and purpose of the planned development district. In just a little bit more detail, there are 8 purposes and intents for the PD district, and I've just broken down those in a little bit more detail. There's also questions about PD versus PC being our perimeter center districts. And just in general, our PC district, when we're looking at this concept, like I said, it is unique, both in terms of the size, but also that public-private component. And the PC overlay and PC districts are very prescriptive, and they're not necessarily nuanced enough to accommodate this, specific proposed projects. One big example being, there are open space requirements per, those code standards, but they set kind of strange, very specific dimensional standards for things. One of them being that, we look at the design of this stormwater pond where they're reusing and improving that existing stormwater pond. Technically, it's considered too large of a stormwater pond or too large of a pond amenity by those open space standards for the PC district. And then also those townhomes are deficient in open space according to those standards. But, I think we can all look at this development and go, this is a well-designed project with really nice open space concepts, not only for the residents of that townhome, but also for surrounding residents as well. And then there's other standards, such as the building design is, again, quote unquote, deficient per those district standards. Their entry stoops or porches aren't meeting those specific dimensions, or it doesn't have the correct facade plane offsets by those design requirements. Again, these are the building elevations that they've proposed as part of the project. And, none of the feedback we've received has been, negative. Design is, of course, subjective, but, these have been positively received. And then just to go on, I don't want to go into too much detail on all of them, just in respect of everyone's time, but looking at numbers 2, 3, and 4, just in general, the layout of the development is responsive to the context of the area, but it, again, is offering something that the developments around it do not, which is that publicly accessible open space and those publicly accessible internal streets. And again, other, sort of details about that PC district is it's requiring much larger rear setbacks, especially when compared to all of the other surrounding developments that have around, 10, 15, 20-foot setback. This development is mirroring those and is actually providing an even larger buffer than is required by the zoning code. And then number 5, we're looking at encouraging innovations in residential, commercial, and industrial development, et cetera. And overall, the proposed development, as I mentioned before, is larger than other recent townhome developments and is representing that influx of new owner options and perimeter centers, and includes a variety of different models in there that really significantly range in size, and is, again, bringing new green space to the area. And number 6, when we're looking at the efficient use of land and public services or private services in lieu thereof, again, within a similar acreage to other developments, this project is providing a higher number of home ownership opportunities, but still in that attractively designed community. And again, that component of the privately designed and maintained green space for public enjoyment. And number 7, when we're looking at lessening to the burden of traffic on streets, the applicant has made significant improvements or is proposing to make those significant improvements to the streetscape by replacing those tree medians. Again, that's not required by the PC district code. Medians aren't actually even included in that street type requirement. They're constructing a new 10-foot sidewalk. Again, that's wider than what's required by code. And they're making intersection improvements in response to that community feedback. And they're doing that in conjunction and in partnership with our Public Works Department. And then lastly, number 8, to provide a procedure that can relate the type, design, and layout of residential, commercial, and industrial development to the particular site, thereby encouraging preservation of the site's natural characteristics. This development does relate well to the surrounding context. It fits into that area quite well. There's a mix of other types of residential, commercial, and office space. And they're improving their existing stormwater management and then leveraging it into this new green space to the benefit of the surrounding community. So overall, the PD district allows for development that fits within the context of the area with the streetscape and intersection improvements that were informed by community needs. And it also provides options for future connectivity improvements and fully aligns with the vision of the 2045 comprehensive plan, and also provides for the flexibility needed to provide both a townhome development and the newly accessible open space amenity. This is the staff recommendation. I've just highlighted the changes to the conditions. That way it's easier to parse through them. Number 4 is related to the easement and the stormwater infrastructure and ensuring that those don't obstruct or prevent one another. Number 5 is just a clarification to the maintenance of that sign there at the corner of Ashford Dunwoody and Ashford Parkway, and that was done at the request of the applicant. And then numbers 11, 12, and 13 and 14 were made based on council feedback. So 11, we have fine-tuned the condition regarding those streetscape improvements to reference the traffic impact study. And then number 12 is related to the maintenance of the stormwater pond, again, putting that as a privately maintained pond, again, either by the property owners association or the homeowners association, and that's at the discretion of the developer. And 13 is restricting those rental units to 10%. And again, we've included that enforcement mechanism that requires them to provide us records. And then 14 is related to constructing the elevator ready units and requiring a minimum of 12 units. And if you have any other questions, I'm here. The applicant is also here. They also have prepared a presentation if you all would like, but otherwise we're both available for questions.
Okay. Let's see if we need the presentation. Let's see what questions people have. Questions? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Madeline. All right, so we have 11 acres of planned development. Madeline, I guess this is for you. The request in the staff memo is for 122 units, but the development plan and the drawings only show 121, which is correct.
So the 122 is just a maximum. They did adjust their plans to show, because they sort of readjusted to create the 3 block units. The site plan currently shows 122, but let's say, or excuse me, 121, but let's say they switch out a couple of models of, let me pull up the site plan. Let's say they maybe change this line of green models, which is maybe a slightly wider model, and maybe they make it the more narrow models, and they, have 122 units. We're keeping that maximum of 122. It's just the current site plan is showing 121.
I just thought we were building to the site plan that was put in front of us for approval.
There is, again, a little bit of wiggle room within the site plan, but that's why we have also the written overall development standards. They're always going to develop by those overall development standards. We always allow for minor changes to the site plan.
Well, the ordinance mentions 122 units. So again, if it's 121, if it's 120, the ordinance right now in front of us shows 122. So I guess that's what we're sticking with, is that's your recommendation.
Yes.
On page 4 of the staff document, it states that the townhomes will be 3 stories with a maximum height of 45 feet, and the street-facing units will be clad in high-quality materials such as brick, stone, and glass. So for the applicant, possibly, if I could have a question. I'll repeat that. On page 4 of the staff document, it states that the townhomes will be 3 stories with a maximum height of 45 feet, and the street-facing units will be clad in high-quality materials such as brick, stone, and glass. Sir, what are the materials that are going to be used on the non-street facing units?
So all the elevations that we submitted are I think almost all the fronts are brick or stone, I believe, and glass. Joe is also with me with Ashton Woods.
So the fronts are majority brick. I don't know if we can pull that. I don't have the percentage materials with me tonight. I can So as you can see on this,
That's the front, I believe,
yeah,
right?
that it is. And are you specifically just asking about the sides and rears?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to figure out exactly what you're giving us, so I'm asking the question.
I know they're in the application. Most of them are.
It's got a brick component to the sides and the rears, and then it does transition to cementitious siding.
Okay. Well, let me go on then, because if it's brick and stone on all 4 sides, it should say that in the application. It should say that in the development plan that we are approving today. If it's not brick and stone on all 4s, let me go into something here. Our plan development regulations in section 2787 C5 states that as part of the architectural design, a 4-sided design philosophically must be used. Materials used shall be enduring in their composition and include as a primary material brick, stone, or equivalent durable materials. So if you're telling me that it's not brick or stone on all 4 sides, you don't meet the plan development as far as I'm reading it. So maybe I'm trying to understand what you're giving us.
It is what?
I don't know what page it would be in the package, but they do have elevation drawings, not just these color renderings. I included these in the presentation just because they're more visual, but the package does include those kind of black and white architectural drawings, which does show multiple sides of the buildings.
Well, if it's brick and stone on all 4 sides, I would recommend that the development agreement say that in the development agreement before approving tonight. As a condition, correct? Gentlemen, thoughts?
Is there the opportunity to incorporate, I guess, prior to LDP approval, those designs to be reviewed and approved by staff based on?
I'm just going by what's required in a plan development and what you're giving us today. I'm trying to see if it equates to what's a plan development, and I'm trying to understand what you're giving me. If you're saying it's brick and stone on 4 sides, please, we'll just put that in the agreement. Not a big deal.
John, if you look at Exhibit B in the elevation, it tells you what it is. Exhibit B elevations.
I'm not seeing brick or stone.
I'm telling you, it says, it explains to you what they're giving us. It has it all listed out on the elevations.
Madeline, can you put that on the screen, please?
Yeah, I would have to pull up.
Yeah. If you go to the agenda, yeah. Look at the little words on the drawings. It tells you what the material is.
Yeah, is this screen sharing? I just pulled up the package.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have
Yeah.
their different models and the elevations. And you can see the
Description of the material.
yeah.
Where's the description right there in the sense of the backs?
Yep, so brick and cementitious siding. Same here.
So-
Cementitious and brick. Brick and cementitious as well.
So the question then is the fiber cement siding, does that meet that requirement in our conditions? And I think that's what your question is, John,
I'm
right?
trying to understand it, yeah, because again,
Does fiber cement siding meet?
Yeah, so for the
city's
PD
requirement?
district, we hold it to the elevations that they've provided in their package. And so, what they've provided here as part of the package is what they'd be held to at permitting.
But I think the question is that in our plan development requirements, it says what, John? Say it again.
it says basically four-sided design philosophy with brick, stone.
If I'm scrolling through, I've got to look at the fine print, but to me, I'm looking at, like, for instance, Cooper proposed, there's a front side, it shows the cementitious and brick, and then the next page, it shows same thing. It shows a dotted line, it shows brick and cementitious, whatever that word is. So it shows at the rears there, and I guess I need to see where the sides are, I
Yeah,
guess.
we generally consider cementitious to be a high quality material. It's not like it's different than like a vinyl siding.
It's cement and sand, right?
Left to rear.
Yeah, it's a more durable material.
So yeah, I'm just reading that first one, Cooper. The first page shows the front, and the second page shows the left, rear, and right. So it shows all the four sides, and it shows what is the material that the exterior is made with in the elevation.
Yeah, and I guess, in terms of the discretion, it's, do we consider this, good design on all four sides when we're talking about that four-sided design? So whether, this is appropriate for the council or if you want to see a different, design on these left, right, and rear elevations would be the question.
So do you consider this a high quality design on all four sides?
I would say that, or is that?
No, I'm asking you as a city planner, do you consider this a high quality design on all four sides?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very well-designed community, and I think that they've taken into consideration, yeah, this is certainly higher quality materials than I would expect.
All right, well,
Most townhome
that's fine.
developments.
You've answered the question.
And
I believe that we're not in compliance with the four-sided design philosophy as required in section 28 or 27-87C5. But that's okay. Let me continue on with my questioning. Let's see, Madeline, the staff document mentions 3 stories a number of times, but on page 1 of the overall development plan, page 14 overall, the document states that the building height shall not exceed 4 stories or 45 feet for the attached or detached houses. Is it 3 stories or 4? What are we approving?
Yeah, they're at 3 stories. That might have been a scrivener's error, and my apologies.
And I have that in, that's on page 1 of the overall development plan. It says 4 stories.
Shall not exceed 4 stories, which means it can be 4 and it can be 3.
4 and an easy 3 stories. Yeah, I mean, I apologize for scrivener's error. Okay.
Shall not exceed, and they're building 3 stories.
They could go to 4. Well, again, I'm just trying to understand what we're approving, folks. I'm just reading.
I understand. I'm just saying.
All right.
Madeline can fix that. We can fix that. Keep going, John.
All right, next item then. We've also mentioned 45 feet height limit a number of times. On page 1 of the ordinance, it states the maximum allowed height for an attached home is 45 feet as measured from the finished floor elevation to the top of the highest point. What's the definition of finished floor elevation? Is that the garage?
The finished floor elevation, the definition of that, like if you see here on these townhomes, like for example, on this elevation, it would be like the entry point. So if there's like a couple steps up to the front door, it would be based off that front door elevation. That's what the FFE stands for.
Okay, so going from the bottom of the garage entry point to the top, it can exceed
Mhm.
45 feet, depending on where you say the finished floor elevation starts.
So the finished floor elevation, all of these, I guess it's easier if I look at the elevation or the renderings here. All of these, like for example, on this one, with the garage, that finished floor elevation would be here at the top of the stoop to the top. And that's typically how we measure all of our residential property.
I'm just trying to make sure that it's not, I'm making sure that it's defined so that we know what we're approving, and more importantly, that
Yeah,
you and staff and the builder are building what's designed.
yeah.
Because again, it's not defined in the document, so I'm asking the question.
Yeah, the FFE is how we measure all of our residential developments.
Okay, this one might be for the developer. Looking at the layout of the property, I see the master amenity, which looks to be a swimming pool, deck chairs, pool house, maybe a workout room. Can you tell me about that amenity? What are your plans?
So the amenity is proposed to be a pool and a cabana, if you will, with outdoor space and really 2 restrooms inside and a equipment room.
Okay, when is it going to be built? Who's paying for it? When's it going in?
We pay for it. It will be built. I don't know from a permitting standpoint when you can. I don't know if you have to have the plat recorded prior to being able to get a permit to construct the amenity vertically. But it will be built along with the development.
I guess I'm looking at it from a perspective that nothing in our documentation says when it's going in, who's paying for it, anything from that level. There's no agreements. I'm trying to understand that you are going to put it in before the CEO, that it's part of the plan to do so.
Yes, it
Okay.
is part of the plan for
Okay.
us to construct and cover the cost of the amenity. What we would request if you're wanting to, I guess, have a definitive timeline, something similar to, prior to 50% build out of the community.
I'm just trying to make sure that we put something in the documentation so that the residents that are going to be part of this community are protected. That's all. I want to make sure that there's something in writing. Right now, there's nothing mentioning that amenity.
Yeah, just to clarify, our process for developments of this size and scale, they're typically going through a preliminary plat and LDP phase to put in the infrastructure, and then they go and they do their vertical construction, and then they come and they get their final plat. At the time of final plat, that's when we're checking for compliance with all of their zoning conditions. Is it meeting the site plan that was approved as part of the zoning process? Things are tied to the final plat. That final compliance is tied to that document.
I'm just trying to make sure as a planned development that we have everything documented so there's no surprises. There's no architectural elevations of that amenity. Is that going to be brick as well?
There will be brick. I mean, it will be the same exterior materials as the homes themselves.
All right, because section 2787C2 says that the architectural elevations will be for all buildings in the document. So take your word on that. Thank you. Looking again at the master amenity on the flood map drawing, if you can look at that, I'm trying to understand that. That amenity is missing, but yet you show that area to be calculated as impervious. So how is the building pool and the concrete going to be impervious in that calculation?
So from an engineering standpoint, to make sure we have large enough facilities, we always are conservative. So you'll have a pool deck, you'll have a pool, and so I just calculate it to be overly conservative as impervious. It's going to be less when we calculate it, obviously, but it's better for stormwater control when it rains to be conservative.
Okay, it just seemed inappropriate to me, but thank you for your answer. At the last council meeting, I asked for a list of variances that would have been needed for this rezoning to go through under the normal course of rezoning. And the mayor agreed that she'd like to see that as well. I didn't see any of that documentation in the updated packet. Madeline, I guess you've tried to explain some of that in that presentation a little bit that I wish was in the packet. None of that was for me to review previously. So as far as the variances, I guess, quick update of what would have been there, or what would have been if this was under normal course?
Yeah, so the major points that I touched on in the presentation would be those open space requirements. This is a development that is providing very high quality open space, but it's not meeting the letter of the law. For the individual townhome units, they have to have like a 400 square foot, yard directly attached to it, which some of those are deficient in. And then again, that park, the way the open space requirements are, the pond is technically quote unquote too large to consider that open space a park. It doesn't meet the definition. And then design requirements, requiring facade plane offsets, and those very specific porch definitions where this is a well-designed community, but it's not meeting certain dimensions within that PC district. And we do feel as staff that they meet the requirements of a planned development district. And again, it's sort of unique in this public-private park space that they're creating, and we find that it justifies the use of this zoning district.
All right, thank you. The comprehensive land use plan clearly states that we as a council should be working towards making aging in place a reality. And the Edge City report calls for more single-level living in the perimeter. Therefore, if we approve this document, this development plan, to me personally, it doesn't seem like we're following the citizens' guidance who worked on both documents. The developer has agreed to a minor modification to grant just 12 of the 122 units as being capable of having an elevator. He's not going to install the elevator. He's not going to install anything. He's just making it so that they can modify, so individual owners can modify the design on allowing the stacked closets for an elevator for somewhere to go. Madeline, again, thank you for your comments regarding your perspective on the plan development. I wish your thoughts were in the presentation of the project. Council created many years ago the Planned Development Zoning District for large-scale complexes, multi-use developments with mixed zoning, possibly like a high-rise, retail, townhomes, all on one piece of property, pushed through on a single rezoning. We did not create this zoning tool for just a single zoning use, i.e. townhomes. This use of the planned development zoning with no variances to make it easier on the applicant is deeply inappropriate to me because there is a more appropriate zoning classification that this project could be classified as. And by using the shortcut planned development zoning, I see it as a slap in the face to those who follow the rules, and it cheapens the zoning oversight that we do here on the dais. I'll be voting no on this development as it does nothing for aging in place. And I believe our community as a whole deserves better. Thank you.
Richard, do you have anything to add?
We reduced the size of the acreage. I think it was 7 or 8 acres down to 1.5 acres.
Right.
Because you all wanted to encourage
Right.
us to better development. So
Right.
It was a way that we found to do that. So
Right. Okay. So we're in the middle of a code rewrite, right?
Mhm.
And is plan development in that code rewrite?
yes.
Okay, it should be addressed.
Mhm.
Okay. Joe.
Thanks. You all built that aria over in Sandy Springs. I think that just speaks for itself. You guys have a great reputation, and I'm thankful that you're here, and I'm thankful for the work you've done, and I trust our staff, and I trust the process, and things seem to be documented. I come from outside of the world where you don't have to have everything fit in a certain box, so I appreciate the flexibility. I did have a couple of questions about more on sustainability things because that's just how I am about the pond and the landscaping. If you could just ask if you were amenable to those things I had asked for regarding the draining of the pond and also just more specificity on the landscaping when you refill the pond and
So I was able to get with the arborist today. The only thing we needed to do in terms of, because I think when we talked with the landscape architects and the arborists on that, we wanted to work a little bit on the wording so that like if there's, even better plants that type of thing. And so we came up with two, and they're both on this for the wording, and I have sent them to staff, and so they do have them. And I called them Ashwood zoning items, and so they could be number 15 and 16. But it said the landscape area around the existing pond will not have turf grass installed, but instead use of natural grasses and other native plants in this landscape area of the pond for the development area, which is the area over here. And this was from the arborist and talking to him. For the development area of the site, the developer will use native trees and shrubs where possible and coordinate with the city arborist on the species. So our goal is to use them, but he said in some cases, it might not be the best fit, like where we're trying to screen with the green giants and some of that. And then on number 2, we said the developer agrees to attempt to locate a reptile or amphibian volunteer service that does removal in the metro area. We've kind of tried to Google and found some. The service would have the ability to relocate the reptiles and amphibians in the permitting time frame. We think that's 5 to 6 months if we were approved from now. During that time frame before the LDP is issued. Once a permit is issued for work on the pond, we'll need the work on the pond will need to commence without disruption from that company. So we're saying this probably has 5 to 7 months from right now, or 8 months, if it is approved, that they would be able to do that in, and that we would do that.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to leave it to the experts on that second point. So if the council would agree to that second item in conjunction with the draining and refilling of the pond, I would leave it to deference to staff and the scientists on the feasibility of that. But I do appreciate your willingness to look into that, and also just to further granularity on the landscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much for that flexibility. So those are going to be a couple of conditions that I'll have to get the verbiage for to ask for adoption as an amendment to this.
Okay. Just be thinking about the verbiage while we.
Right. Can you email
Well, can you hand us the verbiage?
or just someone, or I can hand it to Sharon?
You have to hand it.
I want to make sure staff and the records, I don't want to try to do this by motion and amendment because it's going to be a cluster. Let's get the words right with staff so that whenever the motion is taken, and I also need
just read
the
it.
applicant to go on the record to say they agree to these conditions.
I think he just did.
When they're read.
Yeah.
When they're finally read. They
And
haven't been read.
We don't even have a motion on the floor yet. Okay. Joe, is that it? Stacy, you have anything?
I'm just going to be nosy. We pass a lot of things that never get built.
Right.
The living spaces building that property has been rezoned for 20 years.
Construction.
But it's under construction. So I'm just curious, are we going to look at an empty parking lot for the next decade, or what just kind of give me, if we pass this tonight, maybe a timeline, hope?
Sure. I can just tell you by the pressure they're already saying if we get approved that they're already putting toward me on the design side. And so if it was passed, it would probably take about 8 weeks of design. We anticipate 5 to 6 months of permitting. It has DeKalb County with water and sewer and fire, which is always an extra layer. And so within that, so that kind of takes you kind of past the first of the year, right? Somewhere in that time frame. So construction would begin. There's probably 2 months of demolition we're anticipating because the building is a little complex. It's like I said, it's one of the reasons it's not usable. It's funky. So 45 to 60 days of demolition, and then 7 months of the ugly construction. 3 months of the grading, and then it'll turn into more stabilization. And then they would immediately move toward going vertical on this. I think this is one of the highest priorities projects that they have, right here, because it's so walkable. It is truly the definite. I mean, I as a designer, haven't been more excited about a project because it's literally you could walk across the street to Publix, and I talk about that all the time. But this is like walking it. It's really cool. And then the fact that they immediately turned on and found a way, and incorporate. And like I said, they were talking about the senior. We tried to bring that in. There's 3 different types of units, so every different type of unit And they were just saying, if they think the demand will be there, it could even be, it could even expand. So, and they would, you can order like that if they come in and look at a home and they say, this is what I want, then it goes in with that construction too. So, that's the way that's all been set up. And so it would be, I would say after that time frame of it, you would start seeing homes go probably a year from the fall. Sort of somewhere in there, depending on plating and everything else, or even just even into the first quarter of 28.
So she asked one of my questions when you about start and calendaring and everything. So when you take the building down, I assume most materials will be recycled. Is that generally how the demolition companies work?
Yeah, so Atlas typically, there's a couple of the really good demo companies. There are two of them that would bid on that. And so they do take them down and then they take those and recycle those pieces so that they're not overhauled. The only thing we don't know until the building comes down is there's anything that we can crush and reuse.
Okay. And then there's no parking deck there, right? It's all,
No, ma'am.
okay, I'm trying to remember from touring it, right?
It's all,
surface
it's just like a
parking,
C.
acres of surface parking. When we go through the demolition process, we're gonna do our best, Richard, to make sure that no one's blocking the street, correct? Richard? Okay. Because I'm at that area a lot. And as you know from your study, it's a pretty busy street. And then if someone comes in to your design center, which I assume is how this will work, correct? It'll be somewhere not on site, and they want the elevator installed before they move in. You do that, right? That's a possibility, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. And then I want to talk a little bit about senior housing because it happens to be what I did my thesis way back when on. I think the challenge I'm seeing as someone who this has been a big priority for is that we have a demand for empty nester housing, but people want it cheaper than what they can sell their house for. And it's complex here, but they really also don't necessarily want less space. They just want the space configured differently. And I've asked Eric that we need to do an in-depth look because I am not 100% sure that all these years as mayor that I've been right about even what the need is. And so I think that just moving forward, because we can't devalue our land, our land is going to number out. Our land is going to require if somebody buys land to put housing on, it's going to require a certain amount of density. There's just no way around it at the moment anyway. So I think that that's a challenge. Okay, I think that was, let me double check my notes. I think that was all I had. Did anybody have anything else? Rob?
Just one thought, since
Yes, sir.
I'm the one that raised the whole idea of, elevator ready senior housing. I do appreciate that you found a way
Yes,
to get
sir.
something worked in. A home run would be great, but a base hit is better than nothing. So I think just being able to offer something is nice. So I appreciate that.
And I think the walkability, I mean, Aria, I bet you have tons of empty nesters that live at Aria. I mean, tons. And they can walk, sorry, except for the restaurants that are right there, they can walk virtually nowhere. Here, people will be able to walk to the restaurants and to the doctor's office. And if they're hardy, they can walk to MARTA, and the grocery store. I think the location is a tremendous asset and if they happen to work in perimeter, they can walk to work, lots of good stuff. All right. This is a business item unless anybody has any other questions. I need a motion.
I move to approve with the additional 15
Oh.
and 16 if we could get those.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion and a second. Can someone read 15 and 16 into the record, please?
Allowed to read it?
I got,
He's
yeah,
got it.
and Richard McLeod emailed it to me.
Okay, so you're
and I've
gonna read
sent it to,
I have them now if you want me to read it.
Yep.
Okay.
been forwarded, so.
Thank
go
you.
ahead,
Uh, and I'm not sure what number this would be.
15 is the next one.
15 and then
Yeah.
16.
Yes.
So 15 would be the landscape area around the existing pond will not have turf grass installed, but instead the use of natural grasses and other native plants in this landscape are of the pond. I think it meant this landscape area of the pond. For the development area of the site, the developer will use native trees and shrubs where possible and coordinate with the city arborist on the species. The next number would be developer agrees to attempt to locate a reptile or amphibian and volunteer service that does removal in the metro area. The service would have the ability to relocate the reptiles and amphibians in the permitting timeframe of the project before a land disturbance permit is issued. Once a permit is issued, work on the pond will need to commence without disruption from the reptile and amphibian service company. Is that those two conditions acceptable? Can you say it on the record, please, sir? Whoever the applicant is.
Yes, those are acceptable as said.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second with amendments to the conditions on the floor. That's all we need, right? Now we can vote. So all in favor, say aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
That passes 6-1. Councilman Hicks. Oh, 5, sorry. Sorry, Tom. Forgot you were here. 5-1. Councilman Lambert is absent. Thank you. I think I can read this one, right? Because it's Richard. It's not a. Or does it need to be read by you? 1 second, Richard. We're going to hold y'all to that timeline, by the way.
Mayor, the next item is a fiscal year 2026 mid-year budget amendment by Richard Platt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I have a very brief presentation that is just a summary of the memo that was attached to this agenda item. So I'll walk through this real quickly. The first slide here just sums up the purpose of the mid-year budget amendment. It's to process and make adjustments to the previously approved current approved budget. Used to address unforeseen circumstances to reallocate funds based on updated information. And really, it's just to ensure that the city's budget remains relevant and responsive to changing circumstances. So to get into the changes that are being made, and this first bullet point here regarding the general fund is sums up all what the changes that are being proposed to the general fund are. So the current use of fund balance is $7.3 million that's in the budget. This amendment will add to that a use of fund balance of $860,000 approximately. So the use of fund balance for 2026 will be $8,160,355. It's split out as listed there, $5 million for homecoming, $1.5 million for the pedestrian safety projects, $800,000 for police related vehicles and ballistic windows, $662,595 for the MRI facility here at City Hall renovation and the DNC Wildcat Lab, and then for general fund operations, $197,000. For CARES 2, we are aligning the budget to what has been spent, and the remaining funds of approximately $3,800 will be transferred out into the general fund so we can close the CARES 2 fund at the end of this year. And then we have a couple of capital project adjustments recognizing one grant and then a couple of capital project adjustments in the Hotel Motel SPLOST 1 and General Capital Projects Fund. To align budget with actuals, there are no bottom line changes to the budget for those funds. It's just reallocating among projects. So within the general fund, the adjustments that we're proposing for departments are listed below there. City manager at $166,000, legal at $20,000, facilities at $662,000, and communications at $15,000. And again, that bullet point would show a increase in the use of general fund balance of $860,335. As I talked about, the other funds that we're adjusting, CARES 2 is being adjusted to align budget with actuals and close that fund out. The grant fund, we're recognizing the additional LMIG money that we received of $604,760. And then lastly, the couple of adjustments to the other funds, and these are just capital project adjustments, moving $10,000 into the Womack Road ceramic mural project, moving money into 2 police projects related into SPLOST 1 and the SPLOST 1 project, And then within the General Capital Project Fund, adding $9,600 for the Wildcat Learning Lab and establishing a $722,000 budget for the renovation of the MRI facility here at City Hall. And that is all I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? By questions, John.
Thank you for the presentation. I think this is really for the city manager, if I could. The increase of the 160,000 for the risk manager, that person has been on for a few months now, 6 months or so. Is that an ongoing position? Is this a more of a project? Just, I wondered, is this a forever position? Explain the need for the position and where do we see this a year down the road, 2 years down the road?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. As of right now, we see that it's a permanent position, the way we view that. We did have a risk manager position years ago in the finance department, within that department. And part of the reason we put it under city manager is because the risk manager needs to report into the city manager's office. They're a direct report to Jay Vanicki, the assistant city manager. And the way that works is because they're looking at all risk throughout the city. They look at insurance claims. They work with our legal staff on any kind of litigation claims, litigation holds. They also work within our safety portion to help improve safety within the city. So those things, it's a position when we funded it, we felt like it would save the city money based on claims. You know, and that's the part that we'll analyze closely. It's like any position within the government, you know, it's reevaluated from time to time to say, hey, look, does this still make sense? But to answer your question, as of right now, that is designed to be a permanent position.
All right, thank you. Again, I saw the need. I agree with the funding. I'm just trying to understand whether it's a project that we're going to solve the problems and we don't need that position anymore. It can be adopted or brought into it, folded into another position, or is this a forever position? So I'm looking forward to reevaluating all positions in the future. So thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we vote this position into our? Yeah, okay, so.
It's a valid question, ask why.
Okay, but, okay, I mean, we voted for it.
So I appreciate your report. I know that as we prepare for the budget retreat at the end of September, that we're going to be looking at our FTEs and figuring out, and y'all will come to presentations with us explaining the what, the where, and the why, and the how, I guess.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Okay. On the list of items that we're spending our savings on, what have we spent any yet? Like the pedestrian safety funds, have they started going out?
A very small amount. I don't know if Michael stepped away. A very small amount. I think he's working on some procurements as well for it, but out the door, we have not spent that much. No.
Okay. And PD, have they started with the vehicle?
So yes, and I believe the ballistic windows are in, or they've been ordered at least. I know, and I believe the ballistic windows are coming. Yes.
I know that equipment can be slow. All right. Okay. This is a motion. This is an action item, y'all.
Move to approve.
Moved by Rob,
Second.
second by John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Sharon. Joe?
Madam Mayor, if I could make a motion to move from items 8 and 9 under business items, action under them, move them respectively after discussion item under 12. So they would follow.
Right.
8 and 9 would follow discussion item number 12.
Okay, that's a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Second by John. Any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. All right. There was one thing I wanted to clear up because I was confused, because in public comments, someone mentioned the drone and no budget impact. So we have 2 drones. The PCID doesn't do anything independent. I mean, well, they do their own stuff independently, but with security enhancements, they are our partner. We have 1 drone that the city funds. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And the second drone is being funded by the PCID.
Correct.
Because they can only cover so much space. And in order to be able to cover space, and in case anyone in the room hasn't heard this story about our first drone, I'm going to share it because I can. A few months ago, there was a 911 call into our chatcom, and it was a couple that was visiting from out of town at one of our hotels, and they saw a young woman. Well, they didn't know. They saw a person on the top of a parking garage getting ready to jump. They did not know what parking garage it was. If you spent any time in the perimeter, you know we probably easily have 24 parking garages. They knew what hotel they were in, so they knew the direction. The drone went up and within 45 seconds had located the young woman, and our police literally arrived at the moment she was going over. One of our officers was able to grab her and send her back. I mean, pull her back and save her. So I think that I get that there are concerns. I'm not dismissing anybody's concerns, but I think it's important to acknowledge the positive outcomes that some of this equipment provides. And that is my take on drones. But it doesn't, PCID covers the entire cost of one, so there's not a budget impact for us on that one. Okay, next up, Michelle. Mm-hmm.
Good evening again. Okay, so I'm here to present a project framework agreement and a memorandum of agreement with GDOT for the Georgetown Trail, from Old Georgetown Trail to the Georgetown Square. It's a lot of Georgetowns. The PFA, much like the others that I have presented on GDOT project, that outlines like the scope, the responsibilities, and the funding arrangements for the project. So all of this is very standard on all GDOT projects where federal money is tied to the preliminary engineering phase. The MOA, which is not as typical, it was needed because of the type of funding that we received. So the city received a congressional earmark, and that required an MOA to detail the project oversight and the city's financial commitment to funding that oversight. So just a little background. Okay, so the project location, so this was part of that top end I-285 study that was completed in 24. This was in partnership with all the top end cities and the CIDs, and it was really to plan the transportation and the Greenway Trail along I-285. So then this resulted in the top end I-285, the regional trail master plan. So really this is like the first phase of that. You can see that in orange here on the map. So it's really going to connect from the existing path at the Two Bridges Park along Old Georgetown Trail. And it's going to connect to the Georgetown Square path and Old Spring House, and then Georgetown Gateway, essentially. So through coordination with GDOT, the trail will actually be constructed as part of the top end express lanes. But it does require the city that we need to prepare design plans and acquire right of way if needed. So again, this is kind of just going over the endpoints. So on the western end, we are connecting with the path that's along the Old Georgetown Trail, essentially then connecting to the perimeter area through that perimeter center east project that we have currently in design. And then on the eastern side, it will connect to Georgetown Square, which will connect with our Old Spring House path. That is pretty much complete. The last of the poles got pulled, and they will be filling in those gaps this week, early next week at the latest. Hopefully we have our continued good weather. And then it will continue on down Cotillion as part of the top end express lane construction, and then go down through the underpass at North Shaliford and connect with the city of Chamblee. So going to the project schedule, just looking back in time, We completed the top end trail master plan in 24. In August, that's when we received that award for the congressional direct spending, that earmark from Congressman Johnson's office. The next month, we were able to get the project programmed with GDOT. And then it has programmed with GDOT oversight. So really between November of 24 and March of 26 is really when we did a lot of that coordination with GDOT to talk about construction, how to get it included in the top end 25 managed lanes project. And so just moving forward, we're looking for this PFA and MOA execution by the end of the year, and then we'll advertise for a design contract. So the deliverables for the project would be that we'd have a approved concept report and layout. We'd go into the preliminary design. We'd have an approved environmental document, approved survey, and then if needed, we would have right-of-way plans and acquire any right-of-way. And then we would not need to bid out the project since it will be included as part of the top end. I did want to note just the funding amount. So the congressional direct spending earmark is in the amount of $850,000. It has required $212,000 local match, and then the MOA is for $20,000. And so all of that is budgeted within our city's SPLOST budget. I can answer any questions.
Go ahead, Rob.
Half comments and half questions.
Okay.
Just the first comment is, I get, or comment slash question, if you can give me, I guess, a sense of construction schedule, and I know it's all theoretical at this point. There is such poor connectivity between Georgetown and Perimeter that to me, this is really important. I mean, people could use this to go to work, right? Not just to recreate. And it could take a lot of traffic out of both of those areas if it goes that way. And so I asked kind of scheduled tongue in cheek, but could they start it early? I mean, the design in 2027, will this be built while I still live in the city?
Or when you're still alive?
Be optimistic and say yes to that last question. And the other, it's very difficult for me to give you a timeline. I did see that they did some clearing, I believe. It was probably Georgia Power.
No, that's Georgia Power.
Yeah, that's what I meant, like Georgia Power is. So they are moving forward with the utility relocations, which is a positive. But I mean, they still haven't, they still need to go through the GDOT procurement, and I don't think that's even been completed yet. So
Yeah, I understand. And then not related to this at all, I'm just going to say it out loud, is the old Georgetown swim tennis. I'm still hopeful that we can find some way to make that some sort of public space rather than just sit there as an empty lot with a half-filled pool that the county is not being very responsive with.
Well, county has given them a deadline of September 11th or something.
I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you for the presentation. Lot of construction, a lot of land clearing, and I thought it was interesting that they're pushing dirt around before they have any designs whatsoever. Tell me about ADA, what's the slope going to be? How is that going to work? Because there's a lot of up and down there, and
because it's a greenway, it has to abide by the 5%. It can't be steeper than that. But yes, if it was along like a shared use path along a roadway, then you could follow the grade of the road, and if it's steeper. But since it's a greenway, they do have to abide by the 5% max.
Okay, well, it'll be interesting to see how that works because again, there's a lot of up and down there.
Yes.
And then as far as the neighbors are concerned, again, there's a lot of clearing going on. What is our long-term plan for fencing or the federal plan? What's happening for fencing, blocking? Again, this is going right along houses to a certain extent that weren't purchased, but they're still right there. So
I would have to see, GDOT does have some, noise barrier walls that they're putting in. So if our footprint fits within all of that, then that would be included. They do have some I've seen, but I'm not sure the exact locations of them. So, and that's still up for subject of change.
Related subject then, furniture aspect. Again, you got long stretches. Is there going to be benches? Is there going to be places to stop? Is there any other amenities whatsoever along that long stretch of just highway?
Right now, that is not something that has been included in the design. Typically, I mean, people, if you're biking through and it's like more of a commuter or regional connection, you don't tend to stop unless you have an issue, like, and you're like fixing your bike, you pull to the side and there's some space. But it's something that we can look into if that is, a feature that is.
And the Georgetown pool site would be a nice little spot.
Well, there's that.
There on the
There's
route.
that too, I guess. If I'm walking uphill at 5%
Right.
grade for a long time, I'm out of shape. I'm
Right.
an old dude. I need a place to sit down, right?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to think it through from a resident perspective, both from the blocking and the amenities that might come for that path. So thank you so much.
I have questions about timing, I guess. So we know that I think at the end of this year that there's going that the GDOT will choose the winner or their partner, I guess, to build the managed lanes. Is that correct? Around then,
Around then.
we think. Okay.
Yes.
So then they have like a year, like they have all of the next year to finalize the design and the additions, of which we hope one is Peachtree Boulevard, and whatever they're going to do. So that's the next step. And then they come up with a plan of how they're gonna, like, where they're gonna start the construction, which, there's been 7 million iterations, and I think none of it matters because I think the partner gets to make all the decisions. At what point does the design, I know we're moving ahead, but at what point did they start construction, sort of to everyone's point? Do they wait until they're here working on the managed lanes, or how is that? Or do they wait till they're finished the managed lanes? Do you even know? Has anybody told you?
I mean, again, so that's gonna all be up to
The developer, which is
Yes.
what they call the partners to build. They call them developers. Okay.
I mean, I don't think they would do it the first thing, right? But they could do it as part of it. They could do it at the end. It's difficult to know.
Okay. I think benches too, but I just don't even know like how any of this is ever going to play out because I'm a skeptic. And so I think it's actually pretty critical. I think it's a really critical part. And so if you've been over there lately, you have seen what GDOT has done. They have built a runway on, what do you call that part of the world? Like on land that was there. They have built a runway. They're going to finish eventually, and they're going to leave the runway, I'm sure, because GDOT is GDOT's land, I think. Are they going to make them put trees back or anything? Do we know?
Right now, you mean?
Yeah, I
Or
bet they're
maybe
not.
between, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I
Okay.
don't know that for sure.
So then the
I would be
question becomes,
pleasantly surprised.
can they work it all in so they don't have to clear more? I mean, I know we don't know that, but maybe we could ask nicely.
Yes, we can.
Oh, it's going to drive me crazy too, having to look at that for years. Okay, maybe that means they'll start here and they'll finish and plant trees. Okay. All right, thank you for this. Is everybody okay with consent? Okay.
Thank you.
Michael Smith.
Good evening. Continuing on with our ADA ramp replacement that we started last year, that was discussed earlier in the meeting. To answer a previous question, the funding for this, we've budgeted in the 5-year CIP for SPLOST to put a little bit in each year, about 100,000. We supplemented last year with some state LMIG money, so that's how we were able to do more. But we're making steady progress. Using this year's money, we put out a bid and we received 8 bids. The low bid was Bostic at 52,725. We had initially identified about 28 ramps on Womack, Vermac, and Tilly Mill south of North Peachtree to replace, but with the lower bid that came in, we can add some to that. And so the request is to allocate up to $90,000 for this contract. It's a unit price contract, so they'll get paid a set amount for each ramp that they do, and we'll do as many as we can until we run out of money. To answer an earlier question about how we're picking these, a lot of it is looking at other capital projects we have and working around those. So if in an area where we know we don't have another upcoming project, we'll go ahead and do that area. The numbers of, looking at the 714 that we've identified, we're doing some through this program, but a number of them will get addressed through those capital projects also. So I think the city is making good progress on this with the funding that the council has allocated.
Okay. Anybody have questions? Consent? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vanicki.
Greetings, Mayor and Council. This item today is about a donation that will begin an endowment for Homecoming Park. With me tonight is Andrew Kerr in the back to answer questions from the Georgia Conservancy. We've been working through him. To give you a little bit of history on this, sometimes a news article reaches out farther than you expected. One day, Michael Starling was discussing about us adding green space and parks and the like, and an individual, Mr. Burton Ziskin, called him up and said he was interested in doing that for the city. He's done that in other areas within Western Pennsylvania and the like, and setting up endowments with this. So working over the past few months, staff has worked with him and the Georgia Conservancy on how to set up this, along with the Parks Department and working with Rachel Waldron. One of the things Mr. Ziskin wanted to do was make sure that the funding that he would donate and put into an endowment was to be used for the preservation of green space, not like active concrete playgrounds or the like. So we looked at the Homecoming Park layout, and where the trail is and the like is something that we plan to permanently preserve, or it's something where it's going to be nature. In that case, what he would do is over the next 4 or 5 years, start funding the endowment, and the city would receive the interest over it. The item before you is somewhat ministerial, just so it can be put before y'all for a discussion item at this point to set up a budget, and the budget will have no revenue and no expenditures in it at this point. What would happen is every year, somewhere in the first quarter, I think it'd be around February or March, the amount of interest earned over the previous year, the Conservancy would come to the council, and the sitting council at that time in that year would accept it both as revenue, set the budget for parks, and set the intent of it in conjunction with what the needs are at that time. So at this point, what we want to do is bring it to council so that we could discuss it to see what questions there were about it. Again, also, like all things, market rates will vary. The amount of the investment will increase over time. The endowment will produce a few $100s in the first few years, but should get up into 5 figures by the time it's fully endowed. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Catherine?
Jay, can you define what we have to do as a council? Do we have to pick the projects or just accept the money?
Every year
with the park.
Every year what the plan will be is to take to council an item. And what will happen is Rachel will, in conjunction with parks, there are always needs that we don't know in preserving spaces, looking at what we had not planned for, and to use that and come to the council with that. You would not have to approve it in most cases because it would be mechanical maintenance of the area, but you would have to officially accept it each and every year.
All right, that's all we have to do. Okay.
Thank you to the Georgia Conservancy for working with us.
He's been wonderful to work with. It's been, and we never saw each other on a Zoom call except for that until today.
Go ahead, Joe.
So Jay, yeah, I think now, is this our first time we would be accepting an endowment that you're familiar with?
The first time that I've found in the city's history.
Got it. So we got a precedence. I am always looking at process improvements, making sure we keep the standards, transparency, equal treatment. So for sure, the council's up here to establish policy. So I don't, obviously it's fine. Hey, I wish more people would come forward and help maintain our parks and so on. So I'm not worried about the actual endowment, but what I'd like to look at is potentially having council come up and establishing a formal policy of what donor recognition looks like on public property. So this is a permanent donor recognition on public property. We don't have a current policy set by council for identifying what recognition is appropriate or what those standards should be. We do have a naming policy, but that is for significant financial contributions associated with city assets. So this is about the donor recognition and signage, which is different. So are we working on I'm bringing up to council a donor recognition and signing policy? Are you,
I thought we had some things, but we can review it.
donor?
Before then, and we've worked with the Georgia Conservancy during this time for, as I'm going to call it, I don't mean it to be insulting, boilerplate language for something like this, which would be around the location of where the trailhead started.
But we have naming policies and stuff, so we'll just review it and we'll review it. That's fine.
So eventually it will come up to council for when is it? So what's the next steps on this and when does it come
Not
in?
until first quarter of next year. We're 6 months away.
So this is a discussion. I mean, you don't need like 2 weeks of now.
I just wanted to at least put it out there. We do not even have to bring it back for a vote because we would be setting up a budget of 0 to 0. It just gave me an item to put out there. It's fine for this item not to come back, but I wanted to make sure council was aware and approving of us going forward with this.
Yeah, and then just review the naming process and all that, and let's see what it looks like. Go ahead, Rob.
Just one thing to kind of build on what Joe said, just because I kind of like this. I hate to call it a glorified park bench, but people like to recognize a friend or a family. It's a way to for people to perhaps acknowledge someone that was important to them. I could see this being repeated, and so I think having a policy, kind of figuring out, could give us two things. One, we'll know what to do here, and two, if someone else says, my dad really liked the outdoors. I want to also, and he loved walking at the trail at Brook Run. I want to endow something to help maintain the trail at Brook Run.
This could be the first of many steps.
Hopefully it would be the first of many steps. I think that I think there would conceivably be people in the city that have an interest in, a little bit of recognition for a family member in exchange for helping to maintain some of the green space in the city. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now Ginger is here. And given that they're discussion items, is it okay? I guess you have a presentation? Okay.
Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. Let's start.
While you're getting that up, let me just remind y'all, to the extent this involves cybersecurity, we can't have a public discussion about that. That would be reserved for executive session at a later time.
But there are some questions, like general, like.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let Ginger flag them if they.
Okay, that's
approach
fine.
something
Yeah,
that would
someone
be
can stop,
sensitive.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the first item that we're talking about today is a proposal for an artificial intelligence AI policy for the city, AI use. This is something that we've been in development with for several months now, and we're bringing it to you today. So it is a set of guidelines drafted with the legal team to establish clear rules and guidelines for the responsible, ethical, transparent, and lawful use of AI tools. So just a quick kind of overview, because I know people always ask, what is AI? What does this even mean? What are we even talking about? So AI has existed in different formats since about the 60s, believe it or not. You look at car manufacturers, they used to have the arms that would build the cars and things like that were AI based. Eliza, if any of you guys remember Eliza, Jabberwocky, computers playing chess. These are all AI forms going back to the 60s. However, the reason we're talking about this now is November 2022, ChatGPT became a thing. And when it was introduced, within 5 days, it reached 1 million users. So when you compare that to Instagram, it took 2.5 months for Instagram to reach the same numbers. It took TikTok 9 months and Netflix 3.5 years. So that's why AI has become such a big thing, is because everybody's talking about it and it's growing and developing so quickly at this point. When you're talking about generative AI, things like ChatGPT, Grok, Copilot, Gemini, GovAI, they're all examples of Gen AI. Okay, they're just a few examples, but they're examples of Gen AI. They utilize a large language model to create new content. So that's called an LLM. And they take massive amounts of data from across the internet. And what do we know about the internet? You can't trust the internet, right? So that's why this is such a big deal for us, is because if you're using unapproved, non-secure, they're getting data from places that we haven't necessarily vetted or approved. And so that's part of why this is such a big conversation, is trying to make sure that our users are using AI that we've vetted and approved. Currently, there's an estimated 53% of the population using Gen AI. I don't know if that's accurate. It feels a little low to me. I'm sure it's a lot higher at this point, but that's the number that I've come back with so far. So how are governments using AI? There's smart city initiatives, documentation, technology security, public safety, and of course, your phones are just covered in AI, right? I mean, everybody has AI everywhere you go now. So for us, technology security is a pretty big one for us. We are using it a lot in, sorry, I didn't mean for this to go through all the different steps. So the reason that we are bringing the AI policy, and it's such an important thing right now, is Georgia SB 37. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this. This was the Georgia Law AI Accountability Act that did not pass, mind you. It did not pass. But it did bring together some guidelines for us to make sure that we're also following as a city when we roll out AI policy, and to make sure that we're meeting at a minimum what their ask was when they put this law up, right? And so our policy covers the 8 main pieces that the Georgia Accountability Act, the AI Accountability Act covered. So we made sure that all of those things are in this policy that we're presenting to you today. That's the ethical use, transparency, and accountability, bias mitigation, training and education, data storage, validation of exports, data protection and sanitization, continuous monitoring, accessibility, and equity. So all of those things are covered within this policy that we're presenting to you. The proposed AI policy works in tandem with all of the existing policies, including the technology policy. So they are 2 separate policies, but they do work together. Where there are differences, the more restrictive rule controls, and that is written in the policy as well. It applies to all city personnel and is effective immediately upon approval. The only pre-approved AI tools can be utilized for city business or on city devices. And that's just to cover and make sure that we've vetted the back end of everything, and that there's no data going into something that we haven't confirmed is okay. Personal AI accounts, subscriptions, workspaces, tools, they're not authorized for city business. So a user, one of our city employees, can't go with their personal cell phone, log into their own personal ChatGPT account and start using it to come up with documentation for city. That's not allowed under this policy. Users are required to thoroughly review and verify every AI tool output before using it. That's that human piece, right? You can't trust the AI output. You have to make sure that you're looking at it. And so that is covered in the policy as well. No AI tool may be acquired, licensed, downloaded, or deployed except through the technology procurement policy, which is already approved by you guys in the existing, not even the new, but the previous technology policy did already have a procurement policy that we're referencing here. City personnel are required to complete mandatory AI use training prior to using AI tools. The technology department will be rolling that out after approval. We just want to make sure we're rolling it out based on whatever policy gets approved by the council. And then, yeah, we'll schedule the additional training. Staff is recommending adoption of the AI policy as drafted by the legal team. It does cover everything that the technology department wanted to make sure was in the AI policy, and I believe the legal team covers everything they were worried about as well. So I will answer any questions.
Go ahead.
I believe this is a broad enough question. You referenced Senate Bill 37, and I'm guessing that's considered maybe best practices. Are there other industry standards that we should be using as guideposts to keep our policies updated? I'm just curious about why specifically that Senate bill was chosen as a.
So the reason that we are going with that as our guidelines is because that is what the state of Georgia is looking for. And so what we wanted to make sure of is if the state of Georgia does end up introducing it, or if it does pass in the future, we wanted to make sure that at a minimum, we are following what they're already saying that they would like to see. And so we're trying to make sure that, we already have a policy built around what they're asking for. Also, what they were asking for is all things that would be, just general best practices. It was all.
That's kind of what I was getting at, is that's kind of a static,
Yes.
is there some industry standard that we should just make sure we're always benchmarking against? So thank you.
Joe.
Ginger, what was the example? You mentioned smart city. What are those examples of deployment? What functionality? What is that?
Okay, so some examples of that, just a couple, would be there's the smart trash cans that you would put in a park, and it would immediately notify you via an app telling you that the trash can is full. Another example is Public Works. They have Public Works vehicles that would have a camera on the back that's filming the roadway and telling them where there's potholes and things like that in the roadway. And so it's just happening as it's driving. Those are examples of smart cities AI initiatives.
Constituent like 311 citizen helping people. If you could think about, we have so much wealth of data on our website, bajillion of things, right? If it was be like indexed, there's like almost every question you could point them to a web page that exists on our. Would that be an AI tool to be able to point people in the right direction?
Yes, and we actually have one that's in in development, I guess you would say right now. And we are kind of waiting on the policy before we move forward with something like that.
And then this is related to both items, but about the training. This is not cybersecurity, but just I want to make sure that we all receive the same training as the employees too. That we are brought into the fold, and you know what I mean, and come in however our schedules work or whatever it needs to be. I want to make sure that I am held to the same standards and I get the same training and knowledge too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks.
So I want to read something that's in the plan just so I can make sure I understand it, way up here. So, and I think I'm on the AI policy because that's what we're talking about. This policy applies, it's under the scope of policy. This policy applies to all city personnel, which when using AI tools in the course of city business, including in dealings with third-party agents, contractors, and vendors, and when using a personal device to conduct city business, which we should not be doing.
No.
It applies when the AI tool is accessed through a city or personal account, device, or systems. This policy supplements and does not replace any more specific rules governing particular departments, for example, the Dunwoody Police Department, the city's attorney's office, and human resources, which may impose additional restrictions on the use of AI tools. Where a department rule is more restrictive, the more restrictive rule controls. So I'm assuming when it's less restrictive, this new rule controls, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then they have to comply with all the the federal, state, and local laws that govern us.
Correct. And that is also in the policy. It specifically does state that.
Yes. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? You feel free to go ahead to your second presentation.
Okay.
Wait, does somebody have questions? It's discussion. We moved to discussion.
I'm fine with consent this time.
No, just wait.
Okay, so the next item that we have is the technology policy updates. So as you guys know, because most of you guys were here when we did this, in November 2022, we approved our very first technology policy that was approved by council for the city of Dunwoody. Since then, we've had many system and personnel changes that have not been updated in the policy because the policy is requiring coming back to council to be updated. So if you look at the policy, the previous policy, the personnel names are all wrong. It still mentions our previous vendor. It's not updated. The systems that are in there talking about how to submit a ticket and things like that, all of that is old data. So what we did is we went through the entirety of the policy and reviewed every single piece of it. And as we did that, what we found is, first, we have a Rave mobile panic button. That there was no policy covering that. So we have added a policy in at the very end that is the Rave mobile panic button. And I'll talk about what that is in just a minute. We also updated the technology personnel. We updated the support contact information, and we removed the tips and tricks. Additionally, we updated the procurement process in that we have an application that handles some of the vendor security. And so we added the step-by-step process for that now. We didn't actually change how to do the vendor procurement. We just explained how you do it now. It's a different process. We added in updates to the IT escalation and after-hour emergency. The reason that we did that is because our phone system works a little bit different than it did in 2022. And so the steps to call after-hours IT have changed a little bit. And we also have a new ticket system. So I updated how you submit a ticket. I also went in and added an effective, an update, and a review date. The reason that I did that is because as we're doing this, you want to make sure that you know when was the policy rolled out, when was it last reviewed, and when was it updated. So those have been added into each of the different policies as well. We've moved to the electronic world now. And so there's a cyber incident intake form and a property incident form that can be completed online as an electronic form for the city. And so I added links within the policy to handle all of that. A little bit about the Rave Mobile Panic Button. That is IT-12. The goal is to establish guidelines and procedures for the use of that button. It's designed to rapidly communicate critical information during emergency situations. So, tornado comes through, it could be weather, it could be an incident, it could be notification, but it just makes it so that we can quickly spread that information across the city to the staff. Staff recommendation is to adopt the updates to the technology policy, and additionally ask that the council consider in future granting the city manager or his designee approval authority to make changes in the specific areas only of personnel names, system access procedures, website links, email addresses, and phone numbers, just so that in the future we wouldn't have to bring it to you just to put my name as the technology director or Jordan's name as the technology manager. And now I will accept questions.
So I have a question, and it's about the last comment you made, which is, so it seems to me that there's a lot of stuff in a policy that doesn't necessarily belong in a policy, like the list of staff members, like phone numbers, like you took it down, so I can't remember, but so one thing I might suggest is that we shape the policy the way like in my mind, without stuff that could be so transitory.
Okay.
Right. So and I don't even know if you need to list the positions. This is the policy. These are the rules you're supposed to follow. Here's what you do. So there will be things that might change. Like, here's what you do if your phone gets lost, right? I think that was what you said with the property. Maybe, I know that probably means being hacked or something, but here's what you do. Right. If you leave your phone at Costco, here's what you do. I can't even think of examples, but if we could firm it up so that some of the stuff we can give permission to change it, but it just feels like maybe some of that doesn't need to be in the policy to begin with. And so it's just one thing to think about. Again, we could to me, a policy is procedures. It's the rules we're supposed to follow. So like a few years ago, you said no more personal phones for city business. So now I have to carry two phones. I wish AI could solve that. And that was a rule change. Like that's the stuff that should be in the policy, and that's the kind of stuff that might have to be changed. But we shouldn't have to have email addresses and links. Like that information should be available to employees somewhere, but I don't think it has to be in the policy.
Okay.
Or you could have a generic, I'm just brainstorming, or you can have one generic email address that doesn't change, like info@ or something. So it's just something to think about to clean it up. So that we don't have to give blanket approval for something in the future. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just going to build on what Lynn was saying. I am always happy to see policies reviewed and updated. So the fact that we're reviewing and updating a policy, I think is great. You touched on your previous presentation about 1 million users within a day with ChatGPT. So we last updated this policy 4 years ago. So I would just say, if you think it needs to be updated every 6 months, let's update it every 6 months. I mean,
Right.
whatever you judge it needs to be updated, let's
Yeah.
keep it current.
I think that's fine. I just think that the transitory stuff
No,
doesn't need,
I completely
right,
agree. And to reference like.
right. Same thing with AI, but it's,
Or reference, manager's designee
right.
for roles or something. Yeah, you're, that organizational stuff is fine. I'm just thinking of, if there's other broader topics. Let's
Right.
keep it current.
All right. All right, anybody else? Thank you, Ginger. All right. That concludes public comments. I have no cards. Then city manager comments, Eric.
Yeah, do you have any questions for any executive session? I need.
Yes, we're
Okay.
having an
We do
executive
need an
session
executive session
on
for cybersecurity.
cybersecurity.
Yes, ma'am.
Council comments. I just want to remind, I know that there's not a lot of people listening, but I want to remind people that despite what you're hearing in the media, perhaps, you may not be aware, so maybe not reminding people, that I can't think of a close neighbor that isn't using some kind of a close city neighbor, right? A close neighbor to our city, and even not so close, that isn't using some kind of public safety technology. The media is doing a really good job of focusing on us. That's fine. But it is used widespread. And perhaps if you're focused on us and you don't live here, perhaps you might want to focus on your own community. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Move to adjourn to executive session for purposes of cybersecurity.
Moved by Stacy, second by John. I call the question. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Take up.
Are we hovering here?
It's turned on.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not usually here.
Or just stand in front of our spot? That's.
They can see us.
All right. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Catherine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.